Hello everyone, welcome to Mistakes Were Made. If you are new to our channel, we are here at the dining room table and we are getting ready to do our budget recap for the May 16th through 31st time period. We do our budgeting based on pay period, which means it ends up being a first half of the month and a second half of a month process. This is the last part of May. So we are currently in a new budgeting cycle now that we are into June, and we are going to see where we stand. If you would like to get a little bit of background about how all of this came about, etc., please consider looking at our budget, excuse me, our budget confession or our debt confession video, which is the first video that we put out back in October. If this is not the first of our videos you've seen, if you've been keeping an eye on how things have been going, welcome back. We very much appreciate that you are keeping track of us. I just checked and it looks like we're at about like 730 or so subscribers. So thank you so much for those of you who have decided to support us by subscribing. I'm very excited to see what happens at that 1,000 subscriber mark. So when that occurs, perhaps we'll have something else to add onto these budget, excuse me, videos as far as income is concerned. But that is down into the future. We need to look a little bit at the past, and that is going to be the May 16th through 31st time period. So how did we do? Well, we are going to zoom in so that this is much more easy to see. We did not have any changes or differences for the income as far as Mr. M's paycheck, nor as far as mine is concerned. No miscellaneous income, but we did have some sales in our Etsy shop. Wow, boy, that looks like an A, not a 4. There we go. In the amount of $44.67. Okay, and then of course we had our buffer rollover, which I think was 231. You know what? That seems like it might be a little bit off. I had thought that we didn't have any changes other than this, but I feel like we weren't 100% sure what our rollover was going to be when we did this one, because we actually did this one a little bit early. So I'm going to go check my spreadsheet really quickly. You're not going to even notice that I was gone, but let me go see what we have to see. Okay, I was right. This actually was $200.76, and I know that we hadn't quite completed the first pay period, and that's why we weren't sure about what the rollover was going to be. So we'll go ahead and do some calculating. Let me move the calculator over here so you can see. $2,179.34 plus $23.96.17 plus $44.67 plus 200.76 gives us a total of $4,820.94. Now, our mortgage payment was the same. These we don't do during the second half of the month, but we did have differences for both of these utilities. Unfortunately, the electric bill was $171.36. So $21.36 more than we had guesstimated. And this is our standard, this 150, for those who are new, is our kind of our standard guesstimate, since the utilities are variable based on usage for the summer, or for the winter, sorry. Obviously not great there, but to help counteract that, the gas bill was only $63.22. So we are starting to see that come down from the winter into what is we consider kind of our summer range, which tends to be much lower. Now, I would have liked to see this start to come down, but we've had kind of a strange weather here. We've had some hot days, in the 80s unseasonably, but we've also had a lot of colder days and even late frosts. So I guess this doesn't surprise me so much. Plus, they did have a rate increase. So, what we experienced previously is not necessarily the best basis to come up with how much we can expect to be paying, simply because, we're now looking at a little bit of apples and oranges. The waste management was close. It's typically 74.20. We always round it up for, budgeting purposes. Our internet is the same, and our phone bill, cell phone, is just slightly under what our guesstimate is. So we'll go ahead and add this up. 171.36 plus $63.22 plus $74.20 plus $101 plus $89.62 gets us, oh, and I can't forget the mortgage. I was going to say, wow, that seems really low. $875 added to that brings us to $1,374.40. And then we're going to subtract our total income of $4,820.94 from that to give us what our remaining income amount is, which is $3,446.54. Okay, so no changes here. We did our typical $25 deposit towards our emergency fund. Our buffer is going to stay at 200. We're going to leave the cents off. For those of you who've been watching our budget stuff, this is pretty much the same as usual. But if you are new, we are not going to be filling in our extra job loss savings amount or the cents for the buffer rollover, because that is going to be calculated at the end of this process once we have allocated and accounted for all of our standard costs, and we'll see what money is left over to then be divvied out amongst the goals that we have for any leftover money. So for right now, we are going to say that the total is $225. And we still have our leftovers, so we're going to add, because this is a negative right now, 225, which puts us at a total of $3,221.54. We did not have any deviations from the standard here, so these are our cash envelopes, and we did not go over any of these categories. We allocated the same amounts as we had intended. And any costs that we have that fell into these categories, we were able to pay using the money that was in there, and didn't need to go over those amounts to the point where we would need to adjust our budget because we didn't have enough to pay for them. Okay, so we've got these $200 for our groceries, and then, oops. Again, if you are new, the items that have like a cross mark through, that is because they are items that we only fund during the first half of the pay period, though some of these ones that you do see dollar amounts on are actually dual purpose. They get funds during both the first and second pay periods. So since we didn't have any changes here, we can do the 566. I don't know why sometimes my handwriting is just like abysmal. I can definitely write better than that, but I don't know. But we're going to take that $566. We're going to add it to our current total. And that drops the remaining amount of money down to $2,655.54. And now we're going to shift over to our debt section. And you can see, what our proposed extra debt payment was going to be. But we're not going to be taking a look at that just yet. We have that noted here as well. This is actually a 0, not a 60. But we did not have any deviations from our standard budgeted amounts that we are paying towards both Citi and Discover. So the $400 to Citibank, $250 to Discover happened as normal. We do not pay reflect during the second pay period, so that gets a line through it. Again, we're not going to figure this out until we're all done with all of this. So we are going to take our $650 and we will do an addition of that to what our total was before. And that leaves us with, can you guys see? Yes. Okay, $2,005.54. I have my $30 per pay period allowance, which I spent but did not go over. So again, we'll go ahead and just add 30 to that, which puts us at $1,975.54. And as far as our long-term goals, we only have one at this time. We made the decision when we finished up doing the garden goal that we were going to consolidate our funding for the next long-term goal into just a single one, and we did fund that for $100. We had talked about whether we wanted to divvy it up between two, but because we want to meet this goal as soon as possible, we decided to just go with the one. So we bring that $100 down here. And then that, we can just do the math pretty easily here, means we have $1,875.54. Okay, so we can see our little calculations that we had before. We are going to do the same thing. So we'll circle what the old information was so that we can keep that separate. Again, if you are new, we had made a priority of saving up enough money so that when my job goes away, my share of this budget, we would have enough in our buffer for 6 months. So the idea is I will have 6 months to find a new job, and we will be able to work the budget that we have. We won't have this extra situation that we're dealing with right here, but we'll have the money to do the stuff that we have budgeted out. At that point, my intention was, okay, for as long as the job goes on from that point on, all extra money we will go and put towards debt. And other people who commented on the channel suggested maybe continue doing the savings just a little bit, just to be on the safe side. And you know what? I like to be cautious, so I like that we decided to go with a 75%, 25% ratio. So we are going to take this $1,875.54. We are going to subtract 75%, which puts us at $468. So this is the actual amount that we will be putting into savings. And we'll go ahead and move that over here so that it shows the correct amount, 468. We also know, because we don't deal with the cents when we're doing this, that we're going to have this 54 cents left over. So we are going to put that for our rollover. So it's now $200.54. We have our 1875 and we're going to subtract the 468, which gives us 1407. Okay. So this is what our actual leftover is, and we're going to go up here. Oops, I don't think, there you go, and put the 1407 in here. So we are not done. As you can see, I have triaged that debt amount between City and Discover. And I have right here kind of the guideline that I do for the payment towards City. It's going to either end in a 0, 25, 50, or 75. So since we have 1,407, this is actually going to end up being $1,400. And this will end up being $7. So we did already make these payments. So these have already happened because this budget has been closed out. We are already starting the 1st of June's, pay period because it is June 2nd right now. So we were able to put $1,400 towards City, which is amazing, an extra $100. Now that is because we had an unexpected amount for Etsy. We had some sales, so people purchased some of our stuff in our Etsy shop. We also had a significant drop in cost for the gas bill. We had some other minor drops, and though we did have an increase on what we were expecting, it was not enough to completely eliminate the forward or the positive from having reductions and having extra income come in. And really, those are the two areas that work together to help us get to this $1,875, which when we did the breakdown meant we have a little bit more going into savings and a little bit more going into debt reduction. So $1,400 for City. Discover does end up being kind of the loser in this because previously we were gonna put $23 towards it. Now we're only putting $7, but at the same time, every bit helps. And I would, of course, much rather we are able to put more money towards City because that is our current debt focus. And the sooner we put money towards that, the sooner it's going to go away. So very successful, in my opinion, budget. We didn't have any extra costs that we could not cover because of our cash envelopes, and of course we had the benefit of some of our standard bills having just an automatic reduction just because of usage and things like that. So great. I am very, very excited about this. We are going to, let's see if I can move this stuff that you can't quite see out of the way without making it fall into a huge mess. We are going to zoom back out here. Take a look at our calendar. And oops, this is the June one. We want to look at May. So again, here is May 16th through the 31st. As usual, we write out all of the stuff going into our account and coming out. So we have the opportunity to kind of review. Did we make any questionable purchases? Are we seeing anything that is concerning, like a return to poor habits, which, we've been really, really trying to break. I've had a few people reach out, not just in comments, but, via email and stuff like that, and to share their opinion about things. And one that struck me was they're like, oh, well, yeah, this is like super easy for you. You've got a lot of money coming in. And, to an extent, I can't deny that, yes, both my partner and I have good paying jobs. So 100% we are working with a blessing. We have a bigger pot to work with than somebody else might. But at the same time, you can't deny that we are also still in debt. And we clearly were not utilizing that blessing properly in the past. And it has been a struggle. And it may not seem like it from what we present during these videos, because it is just, here's the numbers and this is what we have coming in, this is what we have going out, this is what we have extra, here's how our debt is moving. But there is a lot of habit breaking. There is a lot of changing of mindset that are behind these numbers. The very, very first thing that we had to do once we wrapped our heads around the idea that my job was going to go away, because I can't imagine anything further from our consciousness than the possibility that either of us were going to lose our job. That's probably was a very naive outlook, because there is nothing that is permanent and for sure, but we absolutely didn't, it was not on our radar as something that we would have to worry about. And so we were living like that was not a possibility. We were enjoying the benefits of the fact that we did have good jobs. We were utilizing that money, not necessarily in the best ways, but we were utilizing it. We would go and buy things without really thinking about, do we really need it? Do we need it in the quantity we're purchasing it? Is it really something we need right away? Is it something we should hold off on and save up money for? We were very much, I want this, we have the money, so we're going to spend it. Whether it's we have the money just in the account, because a lot of times we did, or we have the money and we're just going to pay it with credit cards because we have credit as well. We did that too, obviously, because we have plenty of credit card debt to pay. But the bottom line is, despite the fact that we do have a nice income, at least for right now, we were also spending a good chunk of it. And so it put us in this position where the fact that part of that, half of that income, probably a little bit less than half of that income was going to go away, that put us in dire straits. We may not have been living paycheck to paycheck with the way we were living our lifestyle, but we were probably living every other paycheck to every other paycheck. We had a little bit of money in the bank, but an immediate loss of half of our income, we might have been able to ride that out 2 months, but then we would have been in a world of hurt. And so when that became the knowledge that my job was going to go away, the very first thing that we did was no more credit cards at all, zero. We had to snip that line, which, was basically a money infusion, fake money though it may be, of, oh, well, even if we don't have the money in the bank, or we don't want to spend the money we have in the bank, we can just put it on credit cards. Nope, that stopped immediately. The next step then was we had to go and look really, really hard about the things we were spending our money on. I would say 85% of the stuff that we purchased, we couldn't tell you today what it was. We would have no way to say, oh yeah, here's how we spent $1,000 over the course of, XYZ number of months, because they weren't really that important. They weren't necessarily true needs, and they weren't necessarily experiences that we were paying for. They were just random things that caught a whim and we wanted to get them, or we thought they were neat, or, spending money on, going out to eat and things like that. Sure, that's an experience, but it's not going out to eat for an anniversary or going out to eat as part of a vacation, something kind of lifestyle changing or impacting, if you understand the difference I'm trying to make. If I'm popping over to Taco Bell, it's really not changing my life. If I'm going over to Olive Garden, it's not a life-changing event. But it is expensive. It's more expensive than eating at home. And so, those are ways that money was kind of just slipping through. It was coming in and then going out, and we weren't really paying attention to how we were using that money. So yes, I can see why it might seem like, oh, this is easy because you have a higher income, but we still have had to and continue to try and make sure that we are making those habit changes and those mindset changes that allow us to actually see that extra income and have it then work for us, because it wasn't working for us before. And we're making very specific steps, and we want to get this debt down as far as possible before my job goes away, because we know that once it does go away, it's going to become just that much harder for us to reduce the debt, because the income situation will be automatically reduced. And then once I find my new job, whenever that ends up being, there is no guarantee that I am going to be making the same amount that I'm making now. So I would be extremely surprised if I find a job that allows that. I am anticipating that we are going to have a income reduction. Is it going to be so much that we would be considered low income? Possibly not. Probably not. But it's still going to be potentially enough that it would be a lifestyle change for us, because we're dealing with less money. And having gone through this stuff and the benefits of having a fair amount of money, I mean, $1,400 extra at the end of, more than that, $1,800 extra at the end of a pay period, that is more likely than not going to go away. That is not going to be a reality that we're dealing with. I would be very, very surprised if we are. I hope we are, but I would be surprised. So yes, I acknowledge that our income currently puts us in a very good position, and especially because we have made changes to how we are treating that income. But I would not categorize it as easy by any means. It is not easy to change bad habits. Other people may have other opinions about that, but that is my response to those folks who have made those types of comments. Take that as you will. But yeah, here we have the opportunity to see, are we falling back into poor decisions? One of the reasons, quite frankly, that I included a specific allowance budget for myself was because I do love my Taco Bell, and I wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity, if I wanted to use a little bit of money to go towards that I could do that without feeling guilty about it. So that's where that $30 each pay period comes in. So yeah, that's this. We still follow this through. We still keep track of where things are for our credit cards as the weeks go on. This might be helpful for people as a way to kind of keep an eye on how your money is working for or against you. It's not going to necessarily be for everybody, but that is the May calendar. And then we will take a look here at our debt reduction. So for specifically this, actually, maybe I can do it this way. The specific time period of May 16th through the 31st. I don't know, is that pretty easy to see, or do we need to zoom in a little bit more? Let's try and zoom in a little bit more. The stand that I have this on doesn't necessarily make this an easy process. We started out on the 16th of May with $3,050 in our city credit card, $9,855.96 in Discover, $12,770 in Reflect on the Reflect card. At the end of the month, as of the 31st, we are now at $1,250 for Citi, $9,757.57 for Discover, and $12,770 for Reflect. So we saw a reduction of $1,800 for Citi, $98.39 for Discover, and no change for Reflect. Now that is because we do not put any money towards Reflect during the second pay period. This is actually only a portion of the money that we actually paid towards Discover because it is one that has interest. These two cards, the Citi and the Reflect, are currently on a 0% balance transfer promo, which is one of the reasons why we are focusing on Citi, because that one has the balance transfer promo that is going to expire the soonest. But yeah, so at the beginning of this pay period, we were $25,675.96 in debt. We dropped that down to $23,777.57, which was a change of $1,898.39. Now, if we look at the month as a whole, we started May 1st at $4,450 for Citi, $9,857.96 for Discover, and $12,945 for Reflect, for a total of $27,252.96 in debt. We had a total reduction of, now we're at $1,250. Well, I'm not going to go over the now because it's the same as what it was before. So between the beginning of the month and the end of the month, we reduced our Citi debt by $3,200. We reduced Discover by $100.39 and Reflect by $175 for a total debt reduction of $3,475.39. So here this does, when you see stuff like this, I absolutely understand people looking at that and saying, wow, you have it easy. You are able to reduce your debt by that much in just a month. Well, yeah, that is because we do have a good income. But again, we have made very conscious decisions to not spend money in the way we were used to spend money, and very much as important, not put money on our credit cards. Something that I have noticed on other videos are people who are trying their absolute hardest to bring their debt down, but they're being stymied because they are still putting debt onto their credit cards. And those payments that you're making are going to have less and less impact if you're continuing to use the credit. First, it's going to be reduced because you may put $500 on there, but then you charged $150. So now you're only seeing a reduction of $350. But you're also going to be contending with the interest. And as you continue to pay, put money on the card, that interest is going to charge you, cost you even more. So that it is what it is. Now, as far as what we're looking at for the future. So our job loss cushion, which is my job loss cushion, really, the calculations that I've made for PTO, these PTO and the severance have little asterisks next to them because I don't know if the amount that I have calculated for percentage for taxes to come out is going to be what I've what I've anticipated. So this amount of money, this could go up. It could very well go down as well for both of these. But based on the amount of PTO I currently have, I'm guesstimating that if I were to lose my job tomorrow, I would get $5,922 for my PTO balance, and I would get $4,364 for the severance. This dollar amount here for severance is going to be the same no matter when I lose my job. Unless I happen to continue to work yet another year from where my anniversary date is, which was actually in March, then this is unlikely to change. Now, for savings, for the job loss savings that we have done, we have saved $11,826.84. So this is our physical amount of money that we have ourselves that doesn't, so if I were to leave the job and thus not be eligible for severance, I would still be able to get my PTO, but I wouldn't get the severance. We would have this 11,000 here. So that all comes together to be $22,112.84. Our current budget each month is $5,900. Mr. M is contributing, now that he's gotten a raise, $3,800 each month towards that total, which means I am responsible for $2,100 a month. So to determine how long I have to find a job, we take this proposed total of savings, severance, and PTO, divide it by the amount of money that I need to be contributing so that we can meet our budget needs, and that comes to about 10 and a half months. So, that's good. The more time I have to find a job, the better, just in case it doesn't go well. But also, if I am able to find a job quickly, so that means we'll have a decent chunk of money still left over that we can then either directly apply to remaining debt, or maybe pump up our emergency fund so that it's closer to a 3-month coverage than it is right now. There would be a lot of options of what we can do if I am able to find a job quickly, which I really hope is the case. But I don't want to arbitrarily reduce the amount of time that I have, because I have been, anecdotally hearing that it's been kind of a nightmare out there trying to find a job. So, and particularly one that will pay what it needs to pay for people to be able to live based on the budgets that they have. So, having this, I cannot stress enough how much comfort this gives us. Back in August, when we found out about the job going away, we had nothing. We had maybe, this amount would have been less because I hadn't gotten a raise nor promotion at that point. So it would have been a lesser amount. The PTO, I don't even remember how much I had, but it wouldn't have been enough to bring it to this dollar amount either. So, and we didn't have much at all in savings. So we may have been able to float for 2 months, but that was also staring down the barrel of multiple credit cards beyond the 3 that we have here for debt. Credit cards that were charging interest, a loan with my mom. And of course, we were in the fledgling stages of trying to change our habits and change our mindset. So we've come a long way. I can absolutely acknowledge that. I give ourselves a pat on the back for where we have come to and how we're doing. There is certainly things that we can do to improve for sure. We still do make, purchases that probably we wouldn't need, and if we were doing an austerity type of budget, we absolutely would not be doing. But we made a budget that does have a little bit of leeway and flexibility. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's it. We're already at 40 minutes. So I think I will leave it at that. I am absolutely open to hearing folks' thoughts, opinions, things like that. Do not worry if I don't take the negative comments to heart. I try to make sure that they kind of roll off my back, because people don't necessarily know everything that's going on. They can only know, the numbers, and that's all really that this channel can show. It can't show what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So if there's snarky replies, if there's rude comments, things like that, I don't take it personally. I know what me and my partner are doing and how we're trying to go about this debt. I can look at the progress that we have made, whether it is because we do have good incomes and that's the sole reason why we're able to make this progress, or because it's a combination of many things. That is what I focus on. My goal, his goal, is to get this debt down as much as possible before this job goes away, because we absolutely understand it is going to be much harder to continue to reduce that when the job is gone. We recognize that. That's a fact. It is what it is. The numbers are the numbers. So with that in mind, the fact that we have $1,250, we already in our budget have $800 that is allocated to city between the first and the second pay periods for June. So if we take $400 off of that, that would bring us down to $850. If we have $850 or more in unallocated money, 800, at the end of the next pay period, the first pay period of June, if there's $850 or more for debt, then we will be able to say goodbye to city. And I've got my fingers crossed that is going to come into reality, because then our next step will be focusing on the reflect. And the reason why we'll be going to the reflect next instead of discover, which does have interest, is because it is a 0% promo, and so there is a deadline for getting this paid off. So hopefully we'll be seeing sayonara to city next pay period, and hello to bringing this reflect card down, which is our biggest debt at this point. So, all right. A lot of whining and justifying and explaining and and all of those things going on. I want to thank you so much for listening to me when I ramble about stuff, listening to me when I discuss things that I'm concerned about. I know these can sometimes be long. I really appreciate the comments and the encouragement that people have been giving. I very much appreciate those of you who are liking and subscribing. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, maybe we can get to 1,000 subscribers, and then I can see what the whole thing about becoming monetized is all about. Obviously, with the job going away, any opportunities for some extra money is welcome. So thank you for those who are following along. Please, as always, drop your comments down below, and we'll see you in the next one.